Maddie here. This week we're talking about Emergency Contact by Mary H.C. Choi. It is one of the prettier books in my collection, in my personal opinion. You can't really tell, but the background is entirely pale pink with these nice black contrasts with gold lettering. There you go. With gold lettering for the title. And it just visually is just, in my mind, just ideal. It's perfect. So let's start with our synopsis, shall we? For Penny Lee, high school was a total non-event. Her friends were okay, her grades were fine, and while she'd somehow landed a boyfriend, they never managed to know much about each other. Now Penny is heading to college in Austin, Texas. To learn how to become a writer. It's 79 miles and a zillion light years away from everything she can't wait to leave behind. Sam's stuck. Literally, figuratively, emotionally, financially. He works at a cafe and sleeps there too, on a mattress on the floor of an empty storage room upstairs. He knows that this is an awful chapter of his life that will serve as inspiration when he's a famous movie director. But right this second, the $17 in his checking account and his dying laptop are really testing him. When Sam and Penny cross paths, it's less meet cute and more a collision of unbearable awkwardness. Still, they swap phone numbers and stay in touch via text and soon become digitally inseparable, sharing their deepest anxieties and secret dreams without the humiliating weirdness of having to, see each other. I wish I could remember the first time I read it. It must have been college. Oh, it was 2018, so it had to have been college. Could not have been high school. I read this book in college, and then I reread it, which is when I wrote my blog, when we moved to where we currently live here in San Antonio from College Station, where we used to live. And it's funny because this book was very poignant. When I wrote that blog, it was a very good kind of illustration of just feeling like I was a little bit at sea and needing to be anchored because there was just so much change in my life, like there is with Sam and Penny. And now I don't need that nearly as much, but I love this book. And also what's super funny in my blog, I talk about how hard it was to find a copy of this book, that I'd been looking for a copy of this book for ages. And I'd finally found one at a bookstore at half price here in San Antonio. I finally found my own copy and I was so ecstatic. And now I see this book everywhere. I've been to many bookstores since I wrote this blog and I've seen it so many times. I'm like, where was this when I wanted this book? Because of when it was released. Maybe now it's just working its way into bookstores, or into used bookstores, which is where I mostly go because I like getting used books just personally. But now it's just showing up everywhere. And I'm like, okay, it's not like I was looking for it for forever and couldn't find it. And now it's everywhere. But when I wrote the blog, I reread this book and it's funny because just different life stages, you notice different things and kind of different stories stick with you and different parts stick with you. And Penny is a college freshman. She's starting school. She is getting away from home, building her own life. She's very, very socially awkward. She doesn't ever interact with people well. She doesn't really know how to carry herself. And then you have Sam, he's 21, so he's marginally older than her. But it was so funny. The first time I read this book, I was like, oh my gosh, he's so much older than her. And now I'm like, they're basically the same age. What growing up does to you, I guess. So Penny is a college freshman. Sam is, I think at this point in time, he is a college dropout trying to work his way back into school, maybe doing community college, I think. It's very much he's not on his feet, so he's not where he wants to be, and he has a lot going on in his life, and Penny helps him. And Emergency Contact starts meaning so many different things, because if I remember correctly, so they meet each other, and she's her roommate's cousin or something like that. And that's how they meet kind of initially. And she has kind of an instant attraction to him. He's not a bad guy. He's not the bad boy, but he's kind of scrawny, super into coffee. He's tatted, wants to be a movie director. He isn't your run of the mill stable guy. He's got his problems and his issues. And Penny is immediately attracted to him, especially being an 8-year-old, seeing a 21-year-old. You're just oh my gosh, you're just so cool. Anyways, part of the title Emergency Contact comes from a actual situation where she sees him. She's taking the bus or something and she sees him sitting on a park bench and he literally looks like he's about to pass out. And she gets to him and is are you okay? What can we do? And I think she actually takes him to an urgent care emergency room sort of thing. And so she literally becomes his emergency contact because he feels he doesn't have anybody he can turn to into these moments. He feels he doesn't have anything reliable enough, stable enough to be an emergency contact. And she becomes that for him. And it works both ways because she does care for him and she wants to know him more. And he's kind of reluctantly puts her as his emergency contact sort of thing, because he does feel super broken. He does feel like his world is just so dark and so chaotic, but she very willingly puts herself into his life and is like, hey, I'm here. Not that she's like super peppy upbeat, because she very much has like her own things, but she's very determined in her desire to be in his life, and he's not really in a position to say no to people that are willing to be in his life. So that's kind of where the title comes from, and that's how this relationship starts developing and working. If this relationship was something super unhealthy, super, manipulative, whatever, I wouldn't recommend this book. I probably wouldn't like it very much, but it's two very broken people, and they're kind of broken in some similar ways, some very different ways, but they're just two very broken people that are just trying so desperately to figure out what the heck they're doing with their life, trying to figure out where the heck they are, where the heck they want to be, and how they want to get there, and how important it is to have people beside you. They both work on friends and family and things like that. This relationship is what the book is about, but there's other relationships out there. So it's not like we have this one relationship and everything else is like falling through the cracks. Like, no, they are working on other things, but we are just zooming in and paying particular attention to the relationship between Sam and Penny as it progresses. And so it's just two people not knowing where they are, not knowing where they're going, not knowing how they're even going to get to where they don't know where they're going. It's all a mess. And they need an emergency contact to reach out to and just feel like it's all going to be okay. And it is going to be okay. And at the end of the book, there are some things that are resolved, but not everything is resolved. A book can have a happy ending and a good ending and a Maddie guaranteed ending without it being a perfectly wrapped up story. Because that's the thing, I complain about it in my blog, but it's just a thing that annoys me. That books end, your couple gets together, like they kiss, and it ends. It ends. It's over. And you don't get anything more when there is so much more story to tell. And like, I understand why, but it annoys me. I just want a little bit more story, a little bit further into like, what is it around their friends and like with family and holidays and anniversaries and like their fights and things like that. Like, I want to know a little bit more. And I wish I got that, especially with them, because they are very much developing as people, as characters, as in this relationship. They just have so much more to go, and I wish we could get a little bit more of their story. Like I said, she's 18 and he's 21. They are very young. They have a lot of life left to live, and this is just a small slice of that entire picture. That I highly recommend it. It's really good. I can't remember if it made me cry or not. I don't remember it making me cry, but just as I'm remembering the story, I feel like it's the kind of story that would make me cry, especially depending on like the season of life I was in. Depending on how like uncertain versus certain my life was, it would probably be more or less likely to make me cry. Anyways, it's a really good book. I totally highly recommend this book. It's a really good book to help you not feel so alone. It's very good about that, at just making you feel like you don't need to have it all together. You don't quite need to know what's going on, and not that you need to necessarily be okay with that, but that it will be okay. Because I made that comment, I want to read you the quote that I had selected from my blog, because it just goes really well with that thought. Here we go. Okay. The quote I selected from this book that I put in my blog, that will also be in the description, is, I like knowing that you exist. It doesn't make me feel any less lonely because life is lonely, but it makes me feel a lot less alone. And I don't know, I feel like that's, yes, a very good descriptor of this book, is that there's a lot going on. There's a lot of uncertainty, but having that emergency contact, having that person you can talk to makes you feel a lot less alone. So with all of that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great night, a great week, great weekend, great month, great year. I hope you have all the greats because you're truly worthy and deserving of them. So until next time, adieu. Bye.